All right, today, guys, we're going to talk about the cover letter. I know sometimes students think that this is a bygone requirement, but it is not. In fact, we recommend that you send a cover letter because it can definitely set you apart. So let's get started and talk a little bit about what the cover letter should include. First up, we should always include a cover letter. This can also mean sending a cover email. I've seen cover letters as attachments. I've seen them in the body of an email. I've also seen them as a requirement to the actual application. No matter what, you'll want to send a cover letter because it shows enthusiasm, it shows attention to detail, and it shows professionalism. So even if they're not required, I would send one just so that you can stand out. I have an example here if you'd like to look at it more closely. So in your cover letter, it's important to do your research, and it's not just on the job description. Figure out what the value of the company is, figure out what the position of the organization or the position that you're applying for and what the organization stands for. You really want to get a lot of good dirt on the company because in the cover letter, you are matching up your skills and experience with what they are looking for. So the better you know the company, the more they can envision you in that particular role. If you have a company that is a little bit more conservative, definitely lean with the traditional letter. If you have a company that is a little bit more creative or edgy, you might want to use some of that inside your letter as well. There are lots of templates out there. Vault has some really good templates, as well as some tips on cover letters that are pertinent and timely. So be sure to look in Vault under the career tools. You should be able to find things. We're not reinventing the wheel here, so there's no need to get crazy with the cover letter. Use what's out there, but tailor it each time you write a letter. So each cover letter should be different because you're tailoring it for the specific position that you're writing for. So let me give you a way to actually record some of that information in advance so that you know what your content of your letter needs to be. This is a great chart that shows the skills, knowledge, and traits that are both things that you have as well as what the position is looking for. So what you want to do is find what the position is looking for, specific things from the job description as well as from the value of the company, and then match them up with your specific experiences. You can look at your resume and see if there's some examples on there that might help fill in some of the gaps as well. But again, the cover letter is matching specifically what they're looking for with the skills and experience that you have. So write it out plain as day on a note sheet and make sure that you're matching up A to B. This is an example of a job description, and you're welcome to look it over more specifically to see exactly what they're looking for. When I see something like this, I print it out and have students highlight the keywords that this job description is looking for. And I recommend that you do that with each of your job description as well. Okay, so when you're writing your cover letter, start off with a heading. It should look very much like the one on your resume. Any marketing student will tell you that consistency is key, so make sure that each of your pieces, marketing wise, looks completely similar. So in your heading, you'll want to include your name. Remember, if you have a nickname, put that in parentheses in the middle. You want your current mailing address, your current phone number, and of course, your professional email. It should be aligned and centered as long as it is aligned and center on your resume. That's pretty easy. Next up, the recipient. Now, the one thing I want to tell you about the recipient that you need to know is that it should be written directly to somebody. If you are not writing a cover letter to somebody specifically, then you don't have an in or a contact with that job, and it's very unlikely that you will get the job. Cold calling or cold emailing or putting in a cold resume will always put you at the bottom of the stack. So I highly recommend that you have somebody that you're writing this cover letter to. I never want to see a cover letter that says to whom it may concern or to the hiring department because that's very generic and that means that you are not going to get the position. So seek out the information that you need to find somebody specifically. Put in their name, put in their job title and of course, their company address as well. And then right below that, the salutation should be Dear Mr. or Mrs. and that particular name. Be sure to use formality in this because it is a formal marketing piece. So we want to presume formality. Okay, so we have the heading and the recipient. Next up is the first paragraph. You want to open strong, include some information in there about the company. So if you can find some data about what they're doing or the value that they bring that you are specifically interested in, then be sure to put that in the paragraph. What you want to do is start off not with your name, not hi, my name is. That's at the bottom of the letter. We don't need to put that in there. But you'll want to make sure you include your school or your level or your major. Sometimes I see this in the first paragraph. Sometimes I see it in the second paragraph. Regardless, you'll want to make sure that's in the letter. You want to let them know which position you're applying for. Be very specific. How did you get the information about that position? Where did you find out information about it? If you can include a referral, that's even better. Again, making contact with somebody who knows you there will certainly get you ahead of others. And then hook them and get them interested. Notice at the bottom of this particular slide, you'll see an example of a first paragraph. The student in this example lists a referral. They let them know that they participated in an externship, and then they figured out that they were very impressed with the company's values, which happened to be commitment to professional support and development. They clued in on that because that's super important to Boeing. And if it's important to Boeing, it better be important to the student who is writing this cover letter. So be sure to take a few moments and read this paragraph. Put the video on pause and read this paragraph to see a good example. All right, next up is the second paragraph. Sometimes I see a second or a third paragraph. Regardless, this is the body of the cover letter. This is where you're going to match up your qualifications using specific examples based on what they are looking for. It should be very customized to each employer. So what you'll want to do is highlight with accomplishments how you've added value in past experiences and how that would relate to the job that you're looking for. I can guarantee you in this example that Boeing is looking for somebody who is globally minded, who has leadership skills, and this student has highlighted both of those with his experience. Note that he has also mentioned specific qualifying and quantifying accomplishments, things like managing an $800,000 equity portfolio, talking about the roles that he's been in various activities and how he's developed leadership skills in both of those. So again, take a moment to pause the video and read over this paragraph to see how this student matched up their skills and qualifications with specific examples to the position that he's applying to. Okay, the final paragraph is just a reiteration of your purpose. So you're just highlighting your purpose and your strengths, and be forward and say, I think I'd be a really great fit for this position based on my skills and experience. It's a professional courtesy at the end, so you'll want to thank them for their time. But I also want you to know that a lot of students take a passive approach in this final paragraph, and they say, gosh, I can't wait to hear from you soon, or I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Instead, I would recommend taking a little bit more of an aggressive approach. Not aggressive in the sense that you're ramming it down their throats, but aggressive in the sense that you are taking the next step. The ball is in your court and you would like to follow up. So what do I mean? In this final paragraph, I would suggest saying something to the effect of, I will follow up with you next week to make sure that you've gotten all of my information. I look forward to talking to you then. It's a little bit more, it takes responsibility, in other words, for the next step, as opposed to putting it in their court. So again, pause the video, make sure you read this final paragraph, be appreciative, make sure that you thank them for their time and consideration. Okay, the closing at the bottom is just to sincerely or respectfully put your name, then leave a couple of spaces because that's where you're going to handwrite on your signature on a paper copy. If you have an electronic copy and you have an electronic signature, that's where you would drop that in. And then right below that, you'll want to make sure to include things like your major, organizational positions. Definitely use the Darla Moore School of Business name because you're paying for it and it has some good marketing pull. And then drop down there the University of South Carolina at the bottom. This should actually be your closing for many emails that you send out. Again, we're young professionals now, so we want to make sure that we're using this information to create a personal brand. So that wraps up your cover letter. Remember, you want to be persuasive, be exciting in your cover letter. Make sure that you present something that somebody wants to read. Absolutely make sure that everything is spelled correctly and looks professional. You can always get somebody from the Office of Career Management to proof it, or the Center for Business Communications does a great job working with students as well.